Howdy peoples, I'm Abby Martin and this is Breaking the Set. So it's no secret that the US military has over 5,000 nuclear warheads, enough to eliminate most life on Earth. But it may surprise you how much it costs just to maintain these weapons. Well, a new study from the Center for Non-Proliferation Studies just concluded that over the course of the next 30 years, the US will spend nearly $1 trillion to either keep these weapons operational or modernize them. Because you know the Cold War never really ended. And if there's one thing we need to be spending billions of dollars on, it's mass killing machines. So while this country continues to lag behind in education, income equality, and sustainable energy, at least we can keep the people of the world up at night knowing that the Cold War is alive and well, and we got our nukes locked and loaded. Now let's break the set.
It was a terrible mistake, and we're working very hard to make up for it.
And once again, we put something on the air. It's a flat-out lie.
Have you ever had sex with Governor Rick Perry?
No, wait. Do not answer that. I want you to watch what we're about to do, because you've never seen anything like this on television. What we need is to question more and to keep it uncensored, real and raw. My simple mission is to change the globe. I'm gonna do it with this passion and fire when told. These words are hard hitting, watching you neck, but you need to tune in, because we're breaking the set. Breaking the set. Breaking the set.
When people hear the word UFO, they tend to tune out. However, the term does not necessarily mean little green men from Mars. It's a scientific term that means unidentified flying object. And there are hundreds, if not thousands, of UFO sightings and reports every year worldwide. In fact, just 2 days ago, flights in Bremen, Germany were grounded, canceled, or diverted due to a UFO showing up multiple times on the airport's radar screen. This comes on the heels of a July event that's now surfacing about a bizarre incident near London's Heathrow Airport, where a pilot was convinced he was going to collide mid-flight with a metallic object shaped like a rugby ball. Both incidents are still being investigated by authorities. Well, these reports are nothing new. Yet amidst the many, many UFO hoaxes, my next guest alleges that a fraction of the sightings are indeed extraterrestrial. His name is Dr. Stephen Greer, and he's the founder of the Disclosure Project, an organization that works with retired military and government officials in order to get Congress to investigate UFOs. But as a skeptic, I had a lot of questions. So I first asked him if he had one incident that he would pick to convince people like me that aliens have indeed made contact with Earth.
That's a tough question because, you know, it's the weight of the evidence, and it's like J. Allen Hynek, who is the Air Force Blue Book guy. He said, look, he says, it's an embarrassment of riches. We have so much material. We have so much information. But if you take for one case that we have in the Disclosure Project, and that's a man who was the senior guy at the FAA, and they were tracking this object over Alaska, and it was at one point in the sky, and in one sweep of the radar, it would be 40, 50 miles away, moving completely non-linearly, not like an airplane. And we have the radar tape, we have the pilot report, we have all the evidence from the airline and the government. And this whistleblower who came forward, John Callahan, he said, I'm one of the senior officials in the government that not only have the evidence, but was part of a cover-up to keep the American people ignorant about it.
And so talk about the Disclosure Project. It's the organization that you founded. Why and how did you formulate it?
You know, it grew out of an interest I had since I was a child. My uncle was an aerospace engineer with Northrop Grumman. And I had a sighting when I was a young child and started an organization later called the Center for the Study of Extraterrestrial Intelligence to look into, are we alone, and what can we do as citizens to bring out this information and perhaps make contact. I mean, it was really kind of a visionary effort 24 years ago when we started it. Disclosure Project started because in my early days I was naive and I thought, well, if we put all this evidence together, government documents, astronauts, cosmonauts from the former Soviet Union who have seen these objects, and we have all this and we give it to, in this case, Bill Clinton and his CIA director, who I personally briefed on this subject, they'll do the right thing in the secrecy, bring out this information. It'll be one of the greatest discoveries in human history. Not only that, it'll bring out the technologies, which, frankly, is the reason behind the secrecy. We'll get to this in a minute. Well, what happened was that the political establishment didn't want to touch this. And so So what I just found is that little by little, it was up to we, the people, to do it. So I started a grassroots movement to identify people who had the courage to come forward outside of their national security oaths, who had top secret clearances, and give evidence on this, and give materials, and give documents, and give photographs, and whatever they have. And it led to this big global effort called now the Disclosure Project.
I wanted to bring it to Ancient Aliens really quickly because it's a entertaining documentary series on the History Channel. It surmises that ancient cultures have also documented UFOs. I mean, going back hundreds of years. If aliens have been around for thousands of years visiting Earth, why has their message been lost this whole time? Why haven't they delivered it?
Well, I don't know that their message has been lost, but maybe it's been subsumed or incorporated into various ancient traditions. If you look at the Hopis, if you look at Mesoamerica, South America, there are a lot of traditions that may have actually come from encounters that happen with non-human or advanced life forms from other places. Now, this gets into a really tricky area, and it's where theologians have a problem with this, and that is, if you were to encounter something that's hundreds of thousands or millions of years more advanced than we are, every manifestation of their civilization would look miraculous, would look like a miracle or something that you would hear about in a religious text. So the question becomes, how much of the stories that we have from ancient times, ancient cultures, that we take as mythology might have been witnessing things that couldn't be explained even today, never mind 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 years ago.
I also can't help but bring up the Phoenix Lights, because to me, I think that's one of the most fascinating cases.
Yes, I was there the day it happened.
You?
Yes.
My goodness. Let's play a clip really quick for our audience who don't know about this incident in 1997.
Right.
If you had been here 10 years ago and standing out here and looking up there at the lights and the view, you would have been astounded. You would have been amazed.
Governor Simonton is referring to what is now known as the Phoenix Lights, an object videotaped by many and seen by thousands over several nights in the Arizona sky in 1997.
Major sighting here.
It was described by witnesses as larger than a football field and silent.
And I suspect that unless the Defense Department proves us otherwise, that it was probably some form of an alien spacecraft.
So, Dr. Greer, you have the Arizona governor, you have thousands of people in Arizona who saw this. How is it possible that this is kind of an open and shut case when, you know, so many people saw this, and even he's saying, hey, I'm convinced?
Well, in the Disclosure Project files, we have hundreds of cases like that, some of which are better that the public don't know about. So I tell people should go to our website. It's all up there. The videos, the testimony from all these government officials is all on our website. And so we haven't held anything back except some confidences I've had to keep when I've had meetings at the Pentagon and elsewhere. But what I tell people is that the reason it's hidden in plain sight is that the establishment doesn't want people to know, not so much that there's life out in the universe. There's 2/3 of the public believes that there's intelligent life somewhere out there. Over half believe we've been visited, all right? And this is consistent in polls. It's the technology. How do you put something like that up in the sky and move it, no sound, completely quiet? You're not dealing with fossil fuels. You're not dealing with conventional rockets. You're dealing with an entirely new area of physics, which, if it was disclosed, would mean the end of big oil, the end of the petrodollar, the end of public utilities as we know it. It would be an entirely new energy paradigm. And so the macroeconomic power behind the secrecy is what no one's been looking at. And this is what the Minister of Defense of Canada and I did a press conference on a few years ago, Paul Hellyer, and I did a press conference about this, that it's the energy and technology part of this story that has led to the extreme secrecy and also the extreme ridicule.
Let's talk about your documentary series, because you were mentioning earlier that you've spoken to people who have actually taken these bodies out of crafts. I mean, Dr. Greer, where are these bodies? I mean, in Sirius, you discussed the Atacama skeleton found in Chile as an extraterrestrial being. However, scientific analysis concluded that it's human DNA.
Well, no,
it
actually,
was a human.
we never said it was ET. We said we don't know what it is. And the DNA analysis from Dr. Nolan at Stanford is that 9% of the genetic material isn't matching to humans. Now, as of last week, we just discovered that the stature of this being, which is, now this is a
Can I finish my question really
Yes.
quickly? Because I think even making these allegations before you know, I mean, you're saying that we don't know. Does it discredit your larger attempt to expose the truth about UFOs if you're saying these things? We can't see the beings that have been, but you know, supposedly.
Well, no, and I've never been to a facility where they've been autopsied. However, I know men who have been there, and those are the people in the Disclosure Project and who have gone on the record, who actually have been on retrieval teams. So, and those are firsthand things. Now remember, you know, if the New York Times had 3 people to confirm a very controversial political story, they'd run with it. We have over 110 on digital videotape with top secret clearances, name, rank, and serial number. These are not anonymous. So I tell people, please don't take my word for it. As for the Atacama humanoid, very controversial. You know, the Huffington Post had 5 million people on their site when this thing broke a few months ago. We still don't know what it is. Now, the people who say it's human, they're jumping the gun. The people who say it's ET, they're jumping the gun.
How can equating UFOs with aliens be credible at this point when we live in a world drone technology has existed? I mean, now it's so prevalent, and it probably has existed for decades prior, Dr. Green. How can we ever tell what's a drone, what's a UFO?
Well, you have to know the science behind it. The drones that people see make a noise, like this case that just happened in Germany. It's very noisy. Those things are not quiet. Now, this does open up another whole discussion of what do we have in our classified projects that might look like a UFO, and do those exist? The answer is yes. We have been designing and building what are called EMG, electromagnetic gravitic, anti-gravity, pop culture term, not proper, but things that defy gravity, that float and are silent since the 50s, since the 1950s. Now, this highly classified material. You know, the main writer, one of the big writers for Jane's Defense Weekly, Nick Cook, wrote a book called The Hunt for Zero Point, talking about pulling energy from the zero-point energy field and how that's been applied into anti-gravity systems that are very classified at Boeing, Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin. So I think that we have to have enough information, if you're investigating this, to know that some of them are just misidentifications. Some actually are extraterrestrial vehicles because there have been creatures and beings seen associated with them. Like the French government case where one of these objects landed and there were 4 creatures outside the UFO in a lavender field. And this is in the official Japan, or the equivalent of their NASA report. So don't take my word, listen to the French government's report. Same thing at the Bentwaters case in England. An object landed, there were ETs seen associated with the landing.
But if it's in these official reports, how come there's no official documentation of the beings? That's what I don't understand.
Well, that's a very good question. You'd have to ask the people keeping the secret. I mean, I wasn't there when those things happened. We've just interviewed and found the people, the men who were there, and some women who were involved hands-on with these encounters. So the ET issue, I think, is very clearly established through the body of evidence we have. But there's something, I think, even more spectacular. And this turns this whole question you asked on its head. If some of these objects that are moving at 100,000 miles per hour and making right-hand turns without decelerating hours, what are we doing using jet engines and rockets? What kind of technologies are extant, are out there that might give us an entirely new civilization without pollution, poverty, what have you? This is, I think, where this is the biggest part of the story. It isn't the ET end of it. It's the high-tech energy and propulsion part of the story, which is at the heart of the secrecy.
That was Dr. Stephen Greer, UFOologist and founder of the Disclosure Project. Stick around, you guys, for my take on Chris Christie and Bridgegate.
Iraq is clearly again falling back into extreme civil strife. Washington says it wants to help, but most Iraqis appear wary of any more American assistance. Then there is Afghanistan. Washington plans to finally leave this year. The sad reality for all involved is the fact that Washington may never be able to leave.
The FBI, by changing their mandate from prosecuting law offenders or enforcing law to enforcing national security, quote unquote, it just means that it gives them the right to break the law for corporations. National security agenda is written by corporations. The energy policy written by energy companies. The agricultural policy written by Monsanto. The surveillance policy and prison policy written by Corrections Corps of America. So the FBI serves those corporate masters. Now they can break any frickin' law they want so that they can serve their masters under the rubric of national security, which is a frickin' joke.
Essentially, what you are arguing for is that Kurds should put their ethnic identity above their national identity. Let me ask you a personal question.
Yes.
Are you a Kurd first or an Iraqi first?
I am a Kurd first, then I'm Iraqi. I am not Iraqi, then I am a Kurd. Because, let me ask you that question. I am from Halabja. I have been bombarded. You know, I still remember the smell of the chemical weapons. So what Iraqi identity brought to me? Iraqi identity brought to me the killings of people, mass graves, 4,500 villages were destroyed.
We're fearless and fierce in righteous indignation at injustice. I mean, that's what makes me move. When I feel in my heart, you know, fire in my heart about a situation, I can't not do something.
Guys, it's been a really busy week for news. You know, between the polar vortex freezing Niagara Falls and Dennis Rodman flipping his lid about his new best friend, Kim Jong-un, on CNN. But amidst all of this madness, there's been one story so gripping, so captivating, that it simply demanded nonstop coverage from the corporate press.
As the George Washington Bridge political retribution scandal continues to gain momentum. A total of 4 people have now lost their jobs, as Governor Christie announced today in an epic press conference.
Your thoughts about Governor Christie tonight?
Well, I thought the news conference was classic Christie, direct, blunt, to the point.
The thing that people are hearing is that Chris Christie bullied someone. They don't like bullying. They don't like it. They don't like it when they see it in Washington. They don't like it when they see it in their own communities.
Oh my God, newsflash. You're right. This is not national news. Yes, Governor Krispy Kreme may or may not be a bully, and I'm not trying to downplay the fact that this political stunt shut down a bridge and ruined a perfectly good day for hundreds of people. But look, if we're going to start arresting peaceful protesters for shutting down bridges to prove a point, Occupy Wall Street, then shouldn't we also arrest public officials for doing the same thing? More importantly, though, why is this the controversy about Christie that the news chooses to latch onto? Where was the outrage when Christie shelled out $2 billion in corporate tax breaks to his rich friends, all the while slashing public education by $1 billion in New Jersey? But I digress. My point is that we don't need to be seeing the entire press conference on repeat. The incessant coverage is distracting us from a much larger issue. Yes, even bigger than Chris Christie himself, the TPP. You see, while all eyes and cameras were on Christie, the Senate introduced fast-tracking the Trans-Pacific Partnership, or the TPP. Yes, it's happening, guys, right now. Members of a bipartisan congressional committee took full advantage of the Christie distraction to introduce legislation that will give Obama fast-track authority to move forward with the corporate coup d'etat. See, while the TPP is being touted as a beacon for job creation, the so-called free trade agreement is anything but. Not only have negotiations been conducted almost exclusively between advisors representing powerful multinational corporations, but the talks have taken place entirely in secret. Yes, it's the big banks, global telecom companies, pharmaceutical giants, and fossil fuel corporations that are standing to benefit immensely from the passing of this deal. You know, all the corporations that we trust the most. And what the TPP would do, confirmed by portions of the leaked text, is bring about a whole slew of potentially devastating impacts that range from increased prices for medicine, erosion for internet freedoms, and unprecedented corporate power. See, at the crux of this bill is the establishing of an international trade tribunal of corporate lawyers whose authority would usurp the national sovereignty of every country involved and override domestic law if it hurts their bottom line. But because of growing awareness about the troubling aspects of the deal, these corporate negotiators have launched a campaign to force U.S. lawmakers into an up or down vote without having a chance to even review the content of this international agreement. And that's where we stand today, as senators have officially introduced the fast-track language. See, if the TPP is fast-tracked, Obama will have more leverage on the negotiating table to appease his corporate paymasters. Folks, we cannot let this happen. Fast-tracking this already conniving trade deal goes completely against democratic principles. Look, I know we don't trust Congress. Believe me, most of them are already bought and paid for. But they do ultimately answer to us. So please, please take 1 minute of your day to learn more. Visit stoptpp.org and call your representative to voice your concerns about the shady deal. Already, your voices have made a huge difference and have forced the TPP to be delayed time and again. The more light we shine on this deal will force it out of the shadows and give us a chance to have a say in our future. As you know, I like to feature independent musicians on my show. My next guest is an Oakland-based singer, songwriter, and also a personal friend of mine. His name is Remo Conscious, and he's a hip-hop artist with a politically charged message. Among other themes, Remo's music is centered around police brutality, U.S. imperialism, and political corruption. It was also featured in the documentary film Loose Change. Remo joined me earlier to break the stage and to play his song, War.
They want war, W-A-R, war, W-A-R, war, W-A-R, war, W-A-R. They want war, W-A-R, war, W-A-R, war, W-A-R, war, W-A-R.
Uncle Sam wants you to take a little trip, put a gun in your hand and fill your mind with do what you're told to do, what you feel. Kill a man and his family. Calamity is real for a soldier in the field. Order to take life, brainwash to fight and not question authority. You might get killed by your own, it's on. Watch your front, your back from dusk till dawn. Better pull the trigger, watch blood slither from the skull. Blood coat your mind, screams, paralyze your soul. There's no way to get back to normalcy from here. Trapped in hell while the president sips a beer. Smiles and shakes hands, it's all part of the game. Says all the right thing, but it's all the same. War plane, war bomb, bullets, guns and veins, killing blood. These thugs in D.C. have no shame. They want war, W-A-R, war, W-A-R, war, W-A-R, war, W-A-R. They want war, W-A-R, war, W-A-R, war, W-A-R, war, W-A-R. Flames raining from the sky, bodies in the street, bloody. It's a murder orgy. Uncle Sam's feeling slutty, and everyone bareback, spreading the disease, sending soldiers, tanks, bombs overseas. It's a gangbang, baby. Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, hands up, now scream. Man-made money, mayhem soon follows. Since war's big business, you can figure out tomorrow if you're a soldier. Everything they told you, the war they got you fighting is illegal. It's not about peace or freeing the people. It's about domination, military occupation for the mighty corporation. So if you want change, be a soldier, throw your boat. Come on, take a stand. They want war, W-A-R, war, W-A-R, war, W-A-R, war, W-A-R. They want war, W-A-R, war, W-A-R, war, W-A-R, war, W-A-R. The commander-in-chief, cause he don't give a about peace, and I don't give a damn about the color of his skin. He's not an ex or a king, he's a puppet on a string. While he was preaching hope, we were screaming hope. We're still at war, and we're still broke. The flag still waves, blemish and blood soaked. This ain't the land of the free, it's an empire of gun smoke. They want war, W-A-R, war, W-A-R, war, W-A-R, war, W-A-R. They want war, W-A-R, war, W-A-R, war, W-A-R, war, W-A-R.
What inspired you politically? Because I know that you've been an activist for a long time.
Let's say it's all Bush 1's fault. I got into politics because of him. I started to kind of research what was going on, what he was about, what was driving him, what the forces were behind him. And that just kind of got me started. And I was reignited by his great son, Bush Jr., and that just really lit a serious fire under me. And that's when I actually started to make more political music and you know, put out a single and just threw it out there to see if anybody would even listen to it or pay attention to it. And it's just kind of gone from there.
You know, as an independent artist, activist, very grassroots, everything you do is very bottom up. What do you see as the biggest problem with the top-down music industry right now?
Well, I feel like the music industry doesn't want to support music that talks about the real issues that are happening. They'd much rather put their investment in music that is talking about, you know, making a lot of money, hustling, music that talks about sex, women in a degrading way. And I think that has a trickle-down effect on communities that listen to that type of music. You know, I grew up listening to Public Enemy and KRS-One, and that was really inspirational to me. And they were talking about some serious issues, things that were going on, and what you could do to kind of fight back, you know, with Fight the Power.
Right.
You know, so it's a whole different generation right now, and it's sad.
Right, I do think it's sad that we see a lot of mainstream music now telling people, you know, this is what's important: money, sex, drugs, power, riches. It's just like, wow, it's so far strayed from the roots of where this hip-hop came from in the 80s, like you're saying, exactly. Public Enemy, KRS-One. Remo, where can people find out more about your songs, your work, everything you got going on?
Well, they can go to my website, which is remoconscious.com, and everything's there.
Everything's there, all on your website. Thank you so much for coming on.
They began watching us long ago. This isn't news to the knowing the law has never meant much to lies of thieves on our knees. They want us begging and please protect us from bombs and gunnets. The end of liberty. NSA, stop tapping our phones. Can you see these middle fingers? I know that you can't scan in our emails for details. Phone calls recorded, what attacks have reported. It's sickening, propaganda pistoling. The truth blistering, listening, we won't be new world order. Integrity is now a criminal act. Whistleblowers and truth tellers, the prison and attack. I made it keep quiet, gag, ordered them bound to secrecy till they were 6 feet in the ground. Each secret around, shot deep in the gown. A Lady Liberty, bloody from her feet to her crown. She goes, they're stealing our rights. Unless we put up a fight, we're bound to be slaves from the cradle to the grave. So she goes, she's sick of the abuse. She's stuck in a noose. Unless we put up a fight, we're bound to lose all our rights. The collapse of privacy has been normalized for most. Facebook is Big Brother watching everything you post. Who you hang with, where you go, what you do, what you like. Social media, the spy you let into your life. Without it, you feel out of the loop. Yeah, I tweet my while I'm taking a steady dropping loads of knowledge as I'm fighting the man. Checking the bathroom stall for hidden webcams, microscopic optics. Watch us, so watch it. Embedded in homes and devices like Xboxes and so-called smart meters, smarter than you know. May as well have last laws, it's like the Truman Show. It's 1984, but 30 years later, and thought crimes at an all-time high. So they spy the spooked. Stealing our rights, we have proof. Lady Liberty stuck in a noose. So she goes, we're stealing our rights. Unless we put up a fight, we're bound to be slaves from the cradle to the grave. So she goes, she's sick of the abuse. She's stuck in a noose. Unless we put up a fight, we're bound to lose all our rights. These